Hi folks, this is Jamie Watts from Ancient City Real Estate auctioneer and sales associate. Welcome to this series on first-time home buyers, and this series is entitled What You Need to Know About Florida's Down Payment Assistance Program. Now I'm here today with my good friend Scott Neely from Freedom Mortgage. Scott, how you doing today?
I'm good, thank you for having me.
Scott, tell them a little bit about yourself and what you do and your background and experience.
Sure, I've been in the mortgage business a little over 13 years now. I've done just about everything there is to do in the mortgage business, from being a mortgage broker to working for the banks.
Sure.
And I've even owned my own mortgage company for a few years. So I've kind of been through it all, I've seen it all.
Sure. So you've been there for the roller coaster, you watched it kind of go up and go down.
Absolutely,
and you see it, and you see the good and the bad and everything that we do. So
I'm happy to kind of focus my attention now on helping first-time home buyers. So,
sure, absolutely, and that's kind of what we are here at Ancient City Real Estate, especially what we do is talking about the first-time home buyers. That can be very rough waters for the first-time home buyers. Absolutely. Because they're coming into probably what amounts to the most significant investment they've ever made in their life. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of pieces to that puzzle that have to come together.
Sure.
And this is obviously one of them that we want to talk about today, especially the down payment assistance. And when you do the down payment assistance, because that can be a big hurdle for first-time home buyers. Where is that down payment going to come from?
Sure.
What is it going to look like? Because if you can't get the down payment, oftentimes you could be dead in the water. Mm-hmm. So there's a program that Florida has put out. It's a program, I understand, it's a bond program that's been done. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk a little bit about it. Before we talk about the program, I want to just touch on something for a second, because we've all been up in the middle of the night and couldn't sleep, and we have those infomercials that we see, and we see those snake oil salesmen on TV, and they're telling you how, oh, you can get money here, and you can get a grant here to do this, and we know that a lot of that is just snake oil.
Right.
And so we want to talk about this program, and more specifically the fact that this isn't that. This is something that was created by the state of Florida, and specifically I believe it was created because they're trying to get the economy kind of moving again, aren't they?
Absolutely. The state of Florida, the government, looked at it and said, they were trying to find ways to stimulate our economy.
Sure.
And get people buying homes again. So they came up with the Florida Bond Down Payment Assistance Program.
Sure.
So it's really an exciting time to be a home buyer in the state of Florida.
Absolutely, and it's exciting to be able to help people find that dream home they've been looking for, especially first-time home buyers. So
sure.
Let's talk a little bit about the program and how the program works. I think it's different from county to county, so we'll talk specifically about the surrounding counties, and then we'll talk about a program that I think is a little bit different in Duval County. So we have Putnam, we have Flagler, we have St. Johns County that we work in. So let's talk a little bit about that program and how that program works and how that affects first-time home buyers.
Sure. Let me touch on real quickly. First of all, a first-time home buyer is someone that has not owned a home in the last 3 years. So a lot of people are confused about that. If you've owned a home 5 years ago and you sold it, but you haven't owned anything over the last 3 years,
sure,
the government actually considers you a first-time home buyer again.
Yeah, that kind of becomes a misnomer, because people hear first-time home buyer, you're thinking someone in their early 20s, a couple just starting out, maybe with children, and they don't realize that 3 years without a home, and you could come in. Maybe you were up north somewhere coming into Florida, and you were renting up there or had an apartment. You come down, so there's that opportunity there. So it's very exciting on that.
And the other thing is, most people that are first-time home buyers think that they have to have this large down payment in order for them to buy a home.
Sure.
And that's just simply not the case. Which brings me to the Florida Bond Program. So in the surrounding counties, the state of Florida is going to give you $7,500 towards your down payment and closing costs. There are some criteria that go along with that, which we can cover in a minute.
Sure.
But it's money that they actually give you to help you with your down payment.
Sure.
And a lot of times it covers the entire down payment.
Yeah.
And what's left over can cover your closing costs as well.
Yeah, and that's an area that a lot of first-time home buyers don't realize is there's closing costs associated with buying a home.
Sure.
That, and we're going to talk about that in a future video. The great thing about these videos is we've got a whole series that are coming out, so there's going to be different modules you can watch, and it talks about and walks you through those different steps.
Sure.
I want to stop just for a minute. We'll pick this back up. We're not going to be able to get into everything today with the bond program, but we do have some other stuff that we're going to be talking about at the end of this video, so make sure that you stick around to the end end, and we're going to talk about some other programs and some stuff that we work directly with Scott to help those first-time home buyers. It's a little bit more in depth than what we can get in here today. So, but we'll talk about this. So you go in, you have the $7,500. What is some of the criteria you talked about? They have to be 3 years out that owning a home. Is there any other criteria that we need to be aware of on that side?
Yeah, well, a couple of the main criteria is credit score.
Sure.
640 credit score is what is required today on the Florida Bond Program. There are some income limitations, so depending on how many people are in your household.
Sure.
But we can cover all that with the individual.
Absolutely.
There's a debt ratio cap, which you know, we can cover that as well on the individual basis. But those are mainly the main criteria is credit score and income limitations.
Sure. Now, let's talk about it. We've talked about St. Johns County and the surrounding counties, but we have a special program for Duval County.
Yes.
And my understanding was, and you talk a little bit about this, when the state of Florida set this up, I guess they went in and started looking at the county was the hardest hit when the bubble started to burst on that. So I guess Duval County was one of those that was really affected by that.
Yeah, that's correct. And that actually just came out last year, July of last year. The state of Florida they identified 5 counties in the state of Florida that they considered the hardest hit when the real estate market crashed, and we had the recession. So for those 5 counties, the state of Florida has actually doubled the amount of down payment assistance. So in Duval County specifically for us in Northeast Florida, you can get $15,000 towards down payment and closing costs to purchase a new home. So it's pretty exciting if you're in that county and you're looking to buy in that county. It's pretty exciting. You could a first-time home buyer could literally purchase a new home in Duval County with no money out of pocket.
Right. So that's an interesting point. And also, now if they have, we know the traditional loans that we do, FHA, VA, we can still use those and do the bond program, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so we have some options there to do that. So, this is some great stuff. And like I said, this is something that, people hear this and they go, free money. And, and it's like there's stuff that the state of Florida is doing because, like you said, they're trying to get the economy moving again.
Sure.
And they're getting, people moving into homes and people coming back down again. So, this is something that's the real deal. It's not something that you hear about on TV that's just some kind of snake oil thing. This is the real deal. So,
absolutely.
Is there anything else that you'd like to talk to specifically about the program? I know that I see you have a toolkit here for home loans. You want to talk about that just for a minute?
Yeah, sure. Well, so for specifically for first-time home buyers, we have a home loan toolkit that we give to first-time home buyers that basically walks them through the home buying process and the mortgage process from start to finish.
Sure.
And it's a really great guide if there's someone that they really just don't know.
Sure.
So they can go through this guide page by page, and at the end they will have pretty much all the knowledge that they need in order to purchase that home.
It's interesting talking about that, the toolkit and going through that and understanding it and going through the loan process itself and, doing the real estate side of this and helping the first-time home buyers. We can't emphasize enough the pre-qualification and how important that is, especially when we get into purchasing a home and starting making offers. And you've seen that in the 13 years.
Absolutely.
How as a mortgage banker, how important do you see that from that side of what you do as far as the pre-qualification and making those offers out there?
Well, getting pre-qualified and pre-approved is absolutely paramount because the seller, when you make an offer on a home, the seller wants to know that you've spoken to a lender,
right?
They've pulled your credit, they've looked at your income, and the offer is a legitimate offer.
Absolutely.
It's a much stronger offer than someone without a pre-approval, simply because the seller just doesn't know. They don't know if they're going to qualify.
We almost call them tire kickers in business is what they are. They're kind of going out there and they're going around, they're looking at homes, and maybe they want to make an offer, but like you said, they can't back up what it is that they're trying to offer on this thing. And then, if you've got, an example is, if you've got one person making one offer, and maybe that offer is slightly less than the other person, but that person is pre-approved, and they know that it's there versus the other person where they don't know where the money's going to come from, that could be the difference between your offer being accepted or not. So that's a big area that we really talk about with the first-time home buyers. You need to understand that and how that works and whatnot like that. And when we do these programs like this, we talk to, me and you've talked individually about different things and about dinging your credit scores. Some people are concerned about that. Well, if I do this, won't this hurt my credit score? And you had talked a little bit of how you can kind of explain that, and when you're doing a first-time loan like that it will show up, but it's kind of like you would expect that to kind of be there when you're doing that. Is that correct?
I mean, the credit bureaus look at if a mortgage lender is pulling your credit.
Sure.
They basically they understand that you're shopping for a mortgage.
Sure.
So, if your credit is pulled multiple times, sure your credit score is going to drop eventually.
Right.
But to get pre-qualified, you'll have your credit pulled, but it's not going to be to where your credit score is going to drop several points. Just for that.
Yeah, because you said they expect that's kind of going to happen.
Correct.
It's just being smart when you're making your purchases like that and doing that. So.
And getting pre-approved doesn't cost you anything.
Sure.
It doesn't cost anything to fill out an application and to pull a credit report. It's all free. So. Sure. There's no money out of pocket for the first-time home buyer to do
Which
that.
brings me to the final part of this, and when I was talking about it in the video a little bit earlier, which is that we do private first-time home buyers mixers. We come out, you have a little wine, a little cheese, and we have a presentation that we can't really get into as much in this video just for the sake of time, but you can actually come out and we will go through all this with you. Scott, he comes out, he joins us, he can answer specific questions, and you can actually work one-on-one with buyers and kind of give them an idea of where they're at and what's going on with that. So when we do these programs, we do limit it to 20 people, 20 couples, individuals, however you may be, and you'll actually see those in the coming days. You'll get there's some emails that'll be going out, some stuff that'll be on Facebook. There'll be opportunities for you to register online for these programs. And like you said, it's a good way to get out there and to know and to get an idea of where you're at. The pre-approval process doesn't cost you anything, and it kind of lets you know where you stand and what's going on, and if you're ready to move to that next step. And we know how big buying a home just in general is, but buying that first-time home and how scary it can be to make that investment.
Yeah.
And put your signature on that line for that large investment. So you want to make sure you got all the knowledge that you can possibly have in this thing when we do this thing.
Yeah,
so,
we're here to help.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, well, Scott, I appreciate you coming and join us today for this thing. I think it was very informative, and we look forward to having you come out and meet us one-on-one. Come out, meet me, and meet Scott. My sales associate, Ryan Westover, works together with me, so you actually will be able to meet the three of us. Come out and join us for one of our mixers, and I believe that you'll find a lot of great information, a lot of great education. And come back and join us again as we do our next series on first-time home buyers. Like I said, there's a lot of great information in this. We're putting an academy together. There's a lot of great information here, and I think that it will really help you in making that decision that's informed, that you'll be very happy and certainly find the home of your dreams at the end and be very happy in what you do. So thank you again for joining us.